It started like any other delivery. I was out doing DoorDash runs on a rainy Thursday night, just trying to make a few extra bucks before the weekend. It was one of those cold, damp nights where every building looked darker than usual and the air had that heavy, wet feeling that clung to your skin. Around 10:40 p.m., an order popped up on my phone for a medium pepperoni pizza and garlic knots from a local Italian spot about 15 minutes from me. Nothing special. The name listed on the order was just Mike, and the drop-off was a bit outside my usual range, a town called Red Creek. I didn't recognize the name, but I figured it was just one of those little towns on the outskirts that nobody really talks about. The kind of place where the gas station is also the post office and everyone knows everyone else's business. I accepted the order and headed over to the restaurant. The pickup went smooth. The place was quiet, just about ready to close, and the guy behind the counter handed me the food with a tired look and a strange, almost sympathetic smile. He said, "Drive safe out there," in a tone that didn't feel casual. I remember thinking it was a weird way to say it, like he meant it more than usual. I shrugged it off and got in my car, plugged the address into Google Maps. The pin dropped in the middle of what looked like farmland and woods, no real streets, no satellite view. The DoorDash app gave me turn-by-turn directions, so I followed it and hoped for the best. As I drove, the streets got narrower, the houses disappeared, streetlights thinned out and then vanished completely. I went from paved roads to cracked ones, then gravel, then dirt. The trees pressed in from both sides, leaning over the road like they were watching me pass. My headlights were the only source of light, and even they barely cut through the mist that started rolling in. I passed a rusted-out mailbox lying sideways in a ditch, then a single trailer, collapsed and blackened like it had been torched years ago. The windows were gone, and something about it gave me a bad feeling in my chest. Still, I kept going. I was almost at the destination. The app said I was just under a mile away. That's when the GPS glitched. The screen flickered, froze, then jumped. Suddenly it said, "Arriving at destination." But there was nothing there. No house, no driveway. Just a clearing of tall grass and an old stone well in the center of it. No lights, no sounds, just empty land surrounded by thick woods. I stopped the car and looked around, confused. I thought maybe I missed a driveway or a turn, so I backed up slowly, but the app insisted I was exactly where I was supposed to be. I refreshed the page. Nothing changed. Then my phone buzzed, a message from the customer. "You're here. Just leave it at the porch." I stared at the screen. There was no porch. I typed back, "I don't see a house anywhere." Another reply came almost immediately. "It's right in front of you." I slowly turned my eyes back to the field. Still nothing. No house. Just the stone well and the fog rolling in low over the grass. My stomach tightened. I had this overwhelming urge to leave. Something deep in my instincts was screaming that I shouldn't be here. I typed again. "I think the address might be wrong. I don't see anything here." No response. I waited, staring out at the clearing, trying to make sense of what was happening. The app suddenly crashed and closed itself. When I reopened it, the delivery was gone, vanished. No active orders, no delivery history, like the whole thing had never been there to begin with. I just sat there, gripping the steering wheel, trying to steady my breathing. Maybe it was a prank, or some sick setup. I was about to turn the car around when I caught something in my rearview mirror. A flicker of light. I turned around and saw it. A house. A single-story cabin about 30 feet behind me. Wooden walls, chipped paint, sagging porch, and one flickering bulb above the door. I swear on everything that house was not there when I pulled in. I would have seen it. There was no mistaking that. The longer I stared at it, the more wrong it felt. It wasn't just old. It looked like it had been sitting abandoned for decades. But the light was on. something, or someone, was inside. I didn't want to get out, but my body moved on its own. I opened the door, grabbed the pizza bag, and stepped out into the cold air. Each step toward the porch felt heavier than the last. My ears rang with silence, not even crickets, no wind, just dead heavy air. As I approached the porch, I heard it, breathing, low, deep breathing just behind the door. I stopped walking. My fingers were gripping the bag so tight I thought the plastic might tear. The breathing got louder, like it was right up against the wood. I didn't knock. I didn't say anything. I just gently placed the pizza on the porch, turned around, and walked back as calmly as I could. My legs were shaking. I got in the car, locked the doors, and looked back one more time. The light was gone. The house was gone. The field was empty again, like nothing had ever been there. I drove back in silence, checking my phone every few seconds. No messages, no notifications, no signs of the order ever existing. When I got back into town and finally had full bars of service again, I contacted DoorDash support. They couldn't find the order. No customer named Mike, no address, no delivery record, and when I searched Red Creek again, nothing came up, not even on Google Maps. Just empty forest with no roads. I don't know where I went that night. I don't know who I delivered food to, but someone or something was waiting for me in that field, and they knew exactly where I'd be. All I know is I'll never take a late-night delivery to a place I've never heard of again. Not after that. I had already been out driving DoorDash for about 5 hours and was just about to log off when the notification popped up. A single cheeseburger combo meal. No onions, extra pickles, with a chocolate milkshake. Kind of a weird craving for that hour, but the pay was surprisingly good. The tip alone was nearly double the usual. The restaurant was a 24-hour diner I'd been to a few times before. Pretty normal. A little run down, but decent food, and the staff usually didn't care how late it was. When I got there, the place was completely empty. No cars in the lot, no music playing. Just the buzz of the overhead lights and one waitress behind the counter reading a paperback book. I gave her the name on the order. She looked at the screen, then slowly raised her eyes to mine like she recognized something. "Holloway?" she asked. "Yeah, Jay Holloway." She didn't say anything else, just turned around, packed up the food, and handed it to me. As I reached for the bag, she looked me dead in the face and said, "Good luck getting there." She said it like a joke, but there was no humor in her voice. It came out dry and flat, like a warning wrapped in small talk. I gave her a weird smile, nodded, and walked back to my car. I figured maybe it was just a weird customer, or maybe the address was in a bad neighborhood. I wasn't new to this. Strange deliveries happened all the time. I brushed it off. But then I plugged in the drop-off address and felt my stomach tighten. It was a funeral home, Holloway and Sons Mortuary. At first I thought it must be an error. Maybe it was a house next to it or an office building that shared the lot. But the DoorDash pin was dead center on the mortuary itself. I zoomed in, checked the street view, and sure enough, it was that exact building. Still, the money was good and I was curious. So I drove. The building was about 20 minutes away, off an old county road just outside of town. The farther I got from the main road, the darker everything became. Streetlights were scarce. The GPS signal flickered once or twice. I even lost cell service for a minute. When I pulled into the parking lot, I sat there for a moment, just looking at the place. It looked like something out of a horror movie. The building was old and gray, made of faded bricks with black streaked windows. The name above the front door was chipped and rusted. The only vehicle in the lot was an old hearse parked crooked under a busted overhead lamp. It was the kind of place you'd expect to see boarded up or surrounded by caution tape, but the app still said the order was active. Instructions said, use the side driveway. Leave food near the embalming room door. I pulled in slowly. The gravel popped under my tires and the side of the building came into view. Overgrown bushes lined the narrow path. No lights, no signs of life, just one door toward the back with a faint glow leaking from inside. I parked and just sat there for a second. Something about it didn't feel right. But curiosity got the better of me. I grabbed the food, walked toward the door, and as I got closer, I realized it wasn't just a random room. It was the embalming room. Inside, I could see the edge of a metal table and a wall lined with tools. There was a tray covered in a white sheet and surgical tubing hanging from hooks. The smell in the air was a mix of cleaning chemicals and something else I couldn't quite place. Something sweet and rotten, like wilted flowers left out too long. I didn't want to go in. I set the bag down on a chair just outside the door and turned to leave. That's when I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, dragging footsteps like someone in socks shuffling across tile. Then a voice. Gravelly, cracked, like someone who hadn't spoken in years. You're late. I froze. My heart stopped. I looked back at the doorway. No one was there. Just the faint yellow light and shadows moving somewhere deep in the room. I couldn't tell if it was a trick of the light or if someone had actually just walked out of view. I backed away slowly, keeping my eyes on the door. When I reached the car, I got in, locked the doors, and stared at the building. That's when I saw it. In the rearview mirror, standing in the doorway, was a figure, barefoot, wearing what looked like a hospital gown or maybe a morgue sheet, pale legs, skin grayish in the dim light. I couldn't make out the face, but the head tilted slowly to the side like it was staring straight at me, and then the light inside the room flickered and went out. The door slammed shut. I hit the gas and didn't stop until I was halfway back to the city. I pulled into a gas station with full bars of service and checked the app. The order was gone. No record, no history, no J. Holloway. It was like it had never existed. I tried searching the mortuary name online. Most of the listings were old and archived. One article stood out. It mentioned a fire 5 years ago, started in the embalming room. The owner, Joseph Holloway, had died in the blaze. The business never reopened. But I was just there. The building was real. The room was real, and someone or something spoke to me. I don't know what I delivered food to that night. I don't know why the app sent me there, but whatever it was, it knew I was coming and it was waiting.